Hey everybody, welcome to Attempts at Governance. This is episode 242. Wow. And we have a very interesting and fun show for you today. Actually, lots of great things to discuss. We have Limo in Texas in a Tesla. Is that thing self-driving yet?
And not one, but we have had a few self-driving cars in the past there.
Whoa, that's cool. Wow, neat. And we have Funkatron back. We have lots of updates from refs gone by. We're going to be a little bit disorganized in the show today because I haven't done State of the Treasury. It's in a meeting before this, and we don't have refs gone by. But there is a ref gone by that we should actually discuss. And this is the Polkadot app. Hold on, I'm just going to find it because we have something kind of interesting happening here. Polkadot app treasury funding number 1, was it? Yes, here it is. So this just got executed, Ref 1573. This is the 1.03 million USDC for the Polkadot app. And I actually, in Berlin, I got a chance to interview Berto specifically about the app. It is going to be coming out very soon. So that's going to be a Space Monkeys coming up. And it was actually a really nice conversation. So look out for that. But the interesting thing that I wanted to point out here is this 1.03 million USDT. We don't have that in the Treasury right now. So we go over to the Treasury, we look at Asset Hub, and we only have 131,000 USDT in Asset Hub. There's a 30-day window for the app team to claim their 1.03 million or whatever it is. But we have to wait to see if the dollar cost averaging will yield enough and also prevent other teams from pulling off of this stablecoin pot. There were some warnings about this on the show a few weeks ago. But yeah, that's right, Tommy. It should yield enough. I'm just curious about other spends taking it. But we'll have to see. New handy tool on Subsquare, by the way. Love these guys. They're always adding cool tools. So right here, this little pink box pops up now saying that this is the amount, this is approximately the value in USD of refs that are confirming right now, 128.33 thousand USD worth of assets. And this is how much are being requested right now, 15.16 million being requested. This is because of Snowbridge. This is because of the ambassador program. Just because something's requesting doesn't mean it's going to go through, but it's kind of an interesting tool to give us a good look at the state of the Treasury. That'll be back next week, but we have Funky here, so I'd be remiss if I didn't throw it to him for a deep look at the state of the funk.
Thanks so much, Jay. The state of the funk is admittedly inviting because I would like for all people who are new to the ecosystem that are just coming on board, whether it's through the Kaido Yapper campaign or just genuine curiosity, downloading FIFA Rivals, whatever it may be, was actually reached out to by one of the newer folks in the community on X, and I think his name is Davidson. And so he wanted me to do a short 30-minute space with him tomorrow morning. So this will be at 10 a.m. EDT. So for anybody who's new and you have questions about Polkadot, you'd like to learn more, very happy to entertain those questions and help you however I can as you make your way into the ecosystem. Of course, watching AAG should be at the top of that list so you can get involved with OpenGov. But yeah, that's it. So much. Thanks for the opportunity, Jay. Appreciate you as always.
Thank you very much, Funky. I absolutely love the way you conduct yourself on the timeline. Today I saw your video encouraging people to join the BTC pool, the TBTC pool on hydration.
Got a little more alpha here because
Tell
I
me.
deployed a little bit more last night or this morning.
Nice.
And so I was worried that the cap was going to fill. There's only room for about 5 Bitcoin.
That's what you said, yeah.
That's not a whole lot. But now Lal McShiz, everybody's favorite Big Ben, is aware of the fact that they were so close to hitting the cap. So there should be some more referenda coming to raise that cap as well as some others, because now with the Giga Hydration campaign about to launch, just I think in like 8 days or so, they're probably going to move up the caps on a few of the assets to make sure that there's room, because hopefully we have a bunch of liquidity flooding in and people using the ecosystem for the first time.
Very, very cool. Speaking of caps, I'm exercising a little bit of agency. Agency will be exercised until morale improves on this idea of capping the supply of DOT. And I want to talk about this later in the show because we have so much to get to off the top. But I've asked a few questions on X. The results are interesting. We can look at the results later. But one question is, what should we cap the supply of DOT at? If at all, there's a fourth option to keep inflating. So we have 3.14 billion, 4.2 billion, and 6.9 billion. Current supply is 1.52. So that's an interesting question. It's having lots of discussions here, over 30 replies. It's a really cool discussion. The other one is, quote, I would hold more DOT if issuance was capped at 3.14 billion. There's an option for no, I wouldn't hold more DOT. Yes, I'd hold more DOT under 10K, or yes, I'd hold more DOT over 10K. We'll check out those results later in the show. But I also want to point out that Jonas, the Web3 researcher who we've had on the show occasionally, has been making progress here on the deflationary transaction fee model. So his suggestion was to burn 80% of transaction fees instead of being distributed to, I think validators, I guess it would be. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this was just recently passed by the fellowship. So it's kind of an interesting discussions happening here. Capping supply, also increasingly adding deflationary mechanisms. It's something kind of cool. Yeah, Lee.
Completely different topic. So if anyone has anything to add, feel free.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to start the show soon, but why don't you open a topic yourself? Yeah, please.
Yeah, real quick one. So me, Strin Bergman, and Mr. James
Hey,
are
everybody.
in Texas, in Austin, going to the Moody Center right now for the Counter-Strike major tournament.
Mhm.
So keep an eye out on the Nova Wallet Twitter account in around 1 or 2 hours. There'll be something quite fun, and I hope everybody likes it and joins in. So keep your eyes out.
Sweet. Thanks very much. Yeah, definitely keeping our eyes out for that. Oh, you guys are all in the same car. I see. Okay, gotcha. Hey, James. Okay, got it. Okay, first we wanted to hear from Lucy, who had a kind of a short but announcement about the state of the ambassador ref. Lucy, you wanted a few minutes to talk about this. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And I will keep it very brief.
Hmm.
As I'm sure everybody is aware, we released a proposal last Friday. When I say we, it's been the work of many people and many different parties, and we've come together with quite a chunky ask. Immediate feedback has not been good, and I just wanted to come on here to make everyone aware that we are taking all of that feedback on board. The intention wasn't to put something in that really pissed everyone off, and the reason that we haven't just pulled it down immediately is because there is a fear on all corners that if we just pull it away, there'll be a bit of a vacuum. So we want to think really carefully and are involving as many people as possible to break it down into its components and come back with something much more amenable to everybody based on feedback. So a much more rewards and recognition heavy and sort of tooling and just the real basics that the ambassadors will need when they go on chain to kickstart the program meaningfully and from the bottom up. I think we not with the outset of this was not to come in and for there to be like clear leadership. Unfortunately, this is the position that we, and particularly I, find myself in, but we are working diligently to reverse that, to get back on track and provide everybody with the best chance of making this on-chain collective a great success. So I just wanted to let everybody know this. So watch this space in the next few days. We will be pulling the ref down, and various other people are starting conversations about what it means to be on chain and all of those sorts of things. So yeah, just wanted to make everybody aware. So please keep the feedback coming. One of the reasons that we have kept it up is so that the feedback keeps coming, and you know, everybody needs to be involved in this. We want to have something that the ambassadors can start with when we do go on chain, rather than nothing, and then the first thing that we have to do is try and get some funding. So hopefully everybody will work with us and see the benefit of having something that we can at least kickstart with. That was all.
That's a great update. Thank you very much, Lucy. And we see this all the time. OpenGov is a way to find consensus, even if the consensus on initial suggestions is nay. Obviously, the data we collect can help us move forward and find something more in alignment with token holders, and I'm sure that's going to happen here. So thanks very much for that, Lucy.
Thank you for having me.
We have the pleasure of hearing from some refs gone by. And you know what? I think we should do this a whole lot more going forward. We saw Pierre from Parody on the forums just yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, can someone give me an update on the $3 million Brave situation?" And I thought that was really interesting. And lo and behold, they came out of the woodwork and made an update on the forum, and they're going to be on the show, I believe, next week to talk about it as well. But yeah, we're going to be doing that with, I think, 3 proposals today. And we're going to start with an update on the UX bounty. Some great work from the UX bounty. This was initially proposed way back in Rev 819 and received 63% support from the vote. 63 million votes on the I side, actually. That's pretty cool. So we have Nino and who else? Anybody else?
I'm alone today.
Okay, all right. Thanks for being here. And why don't you tell us, yeah, what's been going on with UX Bounty?
Yeah, so nice to be here. I'm gonna be as fast as possible. So we are in the middle of what we call UX Bounty Tour, which means we're talking to different either decentralized voices or DAOs. We've been talking to Hungary DAO and some other DVs. At this time, we fine-tuned what we're talking about, what we're pitching, and what we're lobbying. So we wanted to stop by at obviously AAG as well. So current focus on the UX bounty is obviously setting specific UX standards, which we're gonna look into detail. We're doing some specific UX projects. What we are executing the most, I would say, is a UX audits grant program. Again, we will go into details on how you can engage with UX Bounty and receive a free UX audit. And then lastly, we would like to mention like our UX complaint box, which we built, and obviously the tour in itself. So when we're talking about UX standards, obviously these are not standards. These are, standards in quote marks, but we are trying to define, documents or some sort of guidelines that would unify the experience across all the parachains, or however the ecosystem is currently fragmented, so that the user experience becomes more and more unified. You probably heard of our initiative, which is unified address format, DOT as a unified gas token, and these two are quite powerful, which means, when a user jumps from different parachains, the address format was different, and it was very hard to detect where you are and where you are sending. So we're trying to consolidate this into a unified address format. Now, this is not done as a systemic change. This is something we have to do one-on-one with different projects and literally lobby them and create some pressure on them to update their basically front end and their UIs. DOT is a unified gas token. Both of these standards are product of our workshop, which was held back in Bangkok, like a little bit like a year ago or something like that. So obviously the thinking here is user is jumping between different projects. He has DOT or she has DOT, and is unable to pay with DOT for the underlying transactions. This is the current state. It is very bad for the UX, so we're trying to, again, achieve DOT as a unified gas token. Besides that, we did publish a unified glossary. It's a selection of different keywords that appear across projects in Polkadot, especially on the UI and on the front end.
Nice.
Again, with a clear purpose of everyone finding, keywords and filling out their UI. Obviously, we are now trying to also push, again, the unified UI library. There were multiple experiments or efforts on creating such library for Polkadot, but most of them ended up, either dead or not being used. So we're now trying to figure out if this is, something we could do. We saw this as a good example in Base, even in Solana and other ecosystems. So if you saw our post on the forum, please do get back to us.
Hey, quick question, I mean, I've seen Niftesti doing some work on a sort of unified UI.
Yes.
Are you paying attention to his work, or is he included in this, or?
He's he's now part of the UX Bounty, and
Cool.
his efforts and his comments are directly coming from the UX Bounty.
I've been really liking what I've been seeing out of him lately. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. So yeah, a quick look into UX glossary, what you can expect. Let's say you are, building a UI and you want to communicate APY, annual percentage yield. If you go across our glossary, this is how you will see it. You will also get tooltips, considerations, recommendations, etc., etc. Obviously, on the UX projects, we do have 3 things open, which currently this is in research mode, right? So we are trying to figure out and find a consensus if this is something that we should go down with. So a unified user support system, bridge discoverability, and obviously crypto tax tool. There are some tax tools, again, they are unfinished or either outdated. We do have some bridges, but as new users are coming in, there is no real list of these bridges and real explanation of what can happen, what can you use, what can you expect. And obviously, we are lacking some sort of unified support systems. All right, so touching the UX audit grants, these are basically UX audits, which are valued between, let's say, 5 to up to 10K in the value.
Nice.
And if you are a Polkadot project with a user-facing interface, and obviously you are production ready, you can apply. And what we do here is basically we are connected to 2 professional companies who then employ into user testing, which is done with actual users. Over interviews, over exposing these users to your UI, figuring out where they're getting stuck, why they're getting stuck there. And these reports also get equipped with a heuristic analysis. So I can probably say these reports are probably, like very, very professional documents, which are like 100 pages in length. And basically what they produce is a list of improvements the project can immediately take to start improving their UX.
That's great.
Yeah, so here are some of the audits which are currently in process. It is possible to see the subsquare voting proposal. I will share this so you can click on the link and see this, or just find it on our Notion. And everything else is still in progress. We do have 1 report which was just finished yesterday, so please keep an eye on this. And it's amazing to see these reports. It's like changes a lot from the perspective of how we are interacting with Polkadot, how we can make it much easier. For example, on Polkassembly, creating a proposal, it's something that I personally think will get drastically improved after this is implemented. Okay, so finally, I hope I'm not too long. We
about 30 seconds.
UX complaint box. So if the idea here is you're working on Polkadot with some of the projects, something is not behaving as it should, you find a bug, you find something, some inconsistency, just do a screenshot and send it over to us. We're the ones who are gonna handle this and do something with it. Now, finally, why we are here, we now, kind of raised awareness of what we're doing, and because this is AAG, and we're doing our tour, what we're lobbying for is, when you guys see any of the projects which are touching the UX or the UI, please send them our way. We have UX Guild calls, and we want to capture these projects when they're still on the OpenGov, where we have certain leverage to push them into following the standards, following the glossary, etc., etc. So
all right.
This is our final pitch. Thank you very much.
So uxbounty.xyz. Let's pull that up right here.
Yes.
uxbounty.xyz. Everybody typing it in at home? Let's take a look here. Oh, nice. Okay, so you can apply for a UX audit. You can learn more about everything going on here. You have the UX complaint box up at the top here. Very, very cool. Thanks very much, Nino, for coming on. Really, really nice update, and I think people are starting to feel the results here.
Thank you very much.
Good job. All right, let's keep going now. We have an update on the Paul Miller something that's way over my head situation with Shankar from the Edge Tributors. DAO, Shankar.
Hi.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everyone. So I will keep it short and simple. I'll quickly share my screen, and I will also talk about the hackathon that we recently hosted. But starting off with the Paul Miller's package. So this was an effort which actually started as finding the missing thing in the substrate ecosystem. So we thought, why not have a JavaScript TypeScript native implementation? And we found out that Paul Miller actually maintains a lot of these for different cryptographic curves, but not for the SR25519, which is the native for the substrate one. So we reached out to him. The development was done by him. So that was an open go proposal. Later, in order to have that package audited, we put the proposal to the .pel bounty and got the support from them. So this was audited by the Oak Security. And now, as this is audited, it is now renamed from Micro SR25519 to SCure SR25519. So although this is audited, there is one more audit by the senior researcher. So this is like a phase audit approach by the Oak Security. So initial audit is done, while one more is on the way. That will happen on 27th of July. But for now, you can check the audit over here. And it's good to use for most of the applications. Now, it is again up to the maintainers of the Polkadot JS apps or any other toolings, any other apps to adopt this now or after July 27th. So it's up to them to evaluate the risk exposure and then adopt accordingly. So HTTP sub DAO basically handled the operations for almost, I guess, 7-8 months now from the development, then finding the right auditor. So we went through multiple auditors, found the right solution and right offerings, and then we put a proposal to the OpenCurve, which was later transferred to the .pel bounty. And here we are. This is basically like the delivery of the everything. Although we were not funded by this, we were kind of interested in getting this business development efforts acknowledged through the business development bounty, but it's no longer there. So it's not a big deal. If anyone wants to acknowledge this through tips or anything, we'll happily provide the information regarding the number of hours we put or anything. Or if you have any other suggestions, we will happily draft a proposal for the same if needed. So that's about the SCure SR25519. I still call it Micro SR25519. But there is one more update from our end, and that's the Asset Hub Hackathon. So distributor sub DAO.
Hold on 1 second. May I ask a quick question about?
Yeah, please.
What's the next step to making this useful in the Polkadot ecosystem, or is it already deployed in some way that is useful?
Yeah, it is already being adopted by the Polkadot SDKD, which is utilized by Papi and other toolings. While for the Polkadot JS apps, there is already pull request with the implementation, and everyone was waiting for this exact audit.
Cool.
So the audit is done. So it can be merged now or on July 27th, and that will benefit the Polkadot apps. Literally every single Polkadot ecosystem, chains, dApps, literally everything, indirectly or directly, in terms of performance as well as in terms of security.
Thank you so much. Okay, please continue. We have 4 minutes left.
Okay, so this is the Asset Hub Hackathon that we hosted, supported with Events Bounty. So I would quickly like to give a short introduction about this. So now that we have the Polka VM launching on Kusama pretty soon, we basically proposed the ideathon for the Polka VM based applications, and then the curators of the Events Bounty suggested us to come up with a hackathon proposal. So we came up with a hackathon proposal, and this was like a hybrid approach, first of its kind. So we had eliminator round for 7 days, followed by the 2 days of finale round in Goa, India. So the major highlights of this is basically we got we got exact 190 hackers, and then at the end of the eliminator round, we got 40 projects. You can check this. I can share the link in the chat as well, probably later. Now, and we also got my major major highlights would be like we got the live stream setup. So because this was the first ever hackathon we hosted and the eliminator round was there, so we had 5 live streams, starting with the opening ceremony, then a mini workshop, then an AMA, yet another mini workshop, and then followed by the closing ceremony. So at the end of the eliminator round, we selected 20 teams, and they basically showed up. Like 19 teams showed up, 1 team couldn't. So 19 teams represented by 43 hackers actually showed up in the finale round in Goa, and we had an amazing time. And I would like to show 2 short videos for the same, which will showcase what we had, like day 1 and day 2 recap.
90 seconds left. Go ahead. Nice. Unfortunately, we can't hear it, but that's okay. Ooh. So what kind of things were built here? Yeah, we're just silently watching the video here, Shankar. We can't hear it.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
So I will quickly share the links for the same pretty soon,
Nice.
probably in the cool stuff. Yeah, so you asked one question, right? What basically was built here? So the focus was on Polka VM. So many of the Solidity developers were there. There were like different tracks suggested, but OpenTrack was also there. So different developers and teams actually develop different toolings. Few people even develop SDKs, which can be utilized by others. Like there was one SDK which was utilized by even Web2 people to generate like ZK proofs and store on Polka VM without even interacting with on the Web3 side. So there are multiple other projects as well. So I will maybe share both the links and the page link for the Dora hacks in the chat.
Great stuff. All right, we're at time there. Shankar, thanks for that great update. Very good. And I hope we find a way to keep these hackathon participants around, especially as we move toward mainnet on Kusama, which we heard on the Open Dev call this week is actually going very well. I think it was Kian who was expressing his delight and surprise that things were actually going as planned and things were on schedule. So that's bullish for the operations at Parity, I would say. So anyway, thanks very much, Shankar.
Yeah, I have one small request, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the end, maybe we can, and on the like near the closing, we can actually play the day 2 recap.
I mean, yeah, maybe at the end of the show. We'll see how people are
Yeah.
feeling, okay?
Thank you.
All right, let's keep going here. We have lots to get to. Final presentation of a ref gone by this week is from Daniel. And this is for Ref 1299, which was 1,000 dots to reimburse his time for a whole whack of things that I suppose he's going to give us an update on right now. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I haven't been here for quite some time, actually, since 6 months ago, where this proposal was awarded.
Yeah.
Half of it was actually for what I was doing for the ecosystem ever since then, which I was very glad and honored that I was actually awarded it. The rest of it was, and I agree that it was very kind of opaque. It wasn't too much explained about what I want to do because I am building it as I go. because my focus and what I'm trying to do with Bohemia Fam and the idea around it kind of grew a lot to build Web3 community in Czechia, because we mostly talk about the financial use cases of the technology, but we are not going deeper into all of the other use cases which we are actually so strong within Polkadot. And so maybe do just a quick overview of what I have been doing right now. I am currently head of legal at Digital and Information Agency in Czechia, which is focusing on digitalization of digital public services of the government, such as digital IDs, electronic signatures, base registries, and how all of the information systems communicate with each other. Then in September, I have also started a doctorate in legal law of information technologies, focused on DAOs. And part of this one is actually I have been awarded a additional grant, not from Polkadot, but actually from my university, to focus on research of a DAO in theory and in practice. So which is a follow-up to what I have been awarded the grant for, to build a on-chain DAO on Polkadot, and then research also created not only on Polkadot, but also compliant with the Czech private law, so that it can actually be a DAO, which is a very complicated topic and not really possible in most Western countries. And so the outcome of that should be to provide a legislative overview of what should be changed within the private law for DAOs to actually be able to be incorporated in a legal wrapper within Czech Republic. And for that, I am actually currently establishing the Bohemia Web3 Academy, where I want to work together with the Polkadot Blockchain Academy to provide education and be also the legal wrapper for that DAO itself. And besides the educational content, mostly in Czech, we want to provide and create the digital regulatory sandboxes, which will be a place where academia, municipalities, businesses, and governmental organizations can come together and actually build applications using blockchain, AI, and data in a regulatory compliant way, so they can test and see what works. So that is and have been my biggest focus and what I am trying to do, because as public official, I cannot have a conflict of interest, which is why I am actually establishing this NGO, so that we can actually have a long-term entity that can actually manage, even without me, the organizations of the Web3, and in that the Polkadot community within Czechia. And to actually create the community before establishing this NGO, I am working with the Polkadot Roots initiative, where we have actually started in November. I have created the Bohemia Roots monthly meetups, where every month we are in a different pub or restaurant. We choose a topic, and people from all different areas of expertise and ages, both from my friends of my parents, also from my little sister, she's 20, so that I try to bring together from different areas without any knowledge of crypto and blockchain, and explain them what are the benefits of this technology, and show them that there are a lot of opportunities within Polkadot to actually get the necessary education for not too much money, and work together with PBA and PBAX, because that's what I also did, the PBAX first cohort, to get more information on this topic. And also that's what we will be talking a little bit later on, but working with Vagoy, where we actually want to give the amazing technology that that Polkadot offers, but mostly it's really deep in the tech stack on the back end. We try to make it much easier to just build application and pick and choose from all of the different palettes for actually application developers, so they can actually use the products of the ecosystem, which are open source, to actually build it and teach them how they can do it themselves, and go for even other funding opportunities than just Polkadot. For example, there is a huge amount of European grants, national grants, and also all of the different corporations. They have a lot of innovative budgets, but they don't know how to do it. And that is what we are trying to provide with the Bohemia Web3 Academy. Now open to questions.
Well, sounds very sprawling, but very interesting research that you're working on, and I'm actually very happy to see that you're putting your big brain to use in this way, especially on these kind of specific outcomes that you outlined at the beginning there. So good work, and thanks for coming and sharing that. Do we have any comments or questions about everything Daniel just said?
Yeah. If not, I would just maybe use the 1 more minute. Again, I understand it's a lot of different verticals, but that is my focus and what I'm trying to do, because blockchain is overarching, very abstract technology. And for us, Polkadot and the Polkadot DAO, our biggest strength is that we are global. We don't have any specific vertical which we focus on, and we can be the bridge between these legacy institutions, such as universities, municipalities, businesses, and governments, which don't talk to each other, or if they do, it is not that easy to do so. So provide a platform where we can show them, if you want to do this shift from centralized into a decentralized system, we can provide you with the information and the tools and the support, and mostly the information for you to actually make it happen. And that's why I'm trying to work on all these different verticals, but also create the decentralized community that can actually help me make it happen. Currently, it's just me, because I don't have time to tell people what they are supposed to do. So I just do it myself. That's faster. But over time, I want to provide the right tools for anyone who wants to join me.
Right at time. Wow. Good job, Daniel. Thank you very much for coming on. And the chat is absolutely lit up today with discussions on inflation. Very exciting to see. Hold on to your pants, everybody, because we are going to be discussing that after we take a look at refs on the go, starting with new refs this week. And we are delighted to bring back the guys from Pop Network. So this is ref 1619, 577,500 USDC for Pop CLI. This follows their request over a year ago. That was 83.9 thousand DOT for the development of Pop Network. Now we're looking for development of Pop CLI, an all-in-one tool for Polkadot development. Interesting. Don and who else? Peter, guys, welcome to the show. The clock starts now.
Hello. I'm going to present it. Thank you for having on the show. Oh, wait. I guess you guys hear me. Do you see the screen?
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, so hello. I'm here to explain you guys what we want to build with Pop CLI. So our original problem statement was Polkadot cannot grow if Polkadot developers to build. The Web3 Foundation granted us a decentralized futures grant 1.5 years ago, which we have finished 2 months ago. And yeah, we built Pop CLI from scratch to now a tool that offers the Polkadot developers the tool they need. And yeah, this was a very nice and proud experience for our team as first thing that we built. Now, so what are the current features of the Pop CLI? So developers that come into the ecosystem, they install the tool and everything that is needed to build on Polkadot. They can start right away with templates that are maintained from OpenZeppelin, ourselves, and Parity. being it a chain or a smart contract. They can build chain, smart contract, chain specs, everything with one command, as well as spinning up a local network or deploying a contract or a chain, even to production. For chains, we have partnered and integrated with the Polkadot deployment portal, the PDP.
Yeah.
And interacting with chains via PopCall and contracts. We even have a browser-based wallet integrated so that people can securely sign their transactions. And then we have some advanced features to do end-to-end tests for smart contracts or do runtime upgrades or test runtime upgrades, as well as benchmarks. This all is wrapped up in the supreme developer experience that we want to provide with POP, really elevating the experience in the Polkadot ecosystem. So from installment to deploying a chain on or your contract to mainnet, that's currently available. And we want to do more. So we're integrated in the Polkadot docs as the development tool for Polkadot. Here we have some CLI metrics. So right here we have popped out the months with the most usage. This was around the time of hackathons and PBAs, which clearly showed to us that the developers that enter the ecosystem use our tool, which is great to see. Some other metrics. So based on our calculations, we have an active user base of 10% of all the Polkadot devs. We have done a survey last month, which you can find on the forum. Some interesting metrics. The onboarding experience and user experience is a 4 out of 5. It's good. It's not good enough. And we really want to improve this. And furthermore, the respondents with the majority voted that it's a public good. So that's why we are also here. And in the past conferences and even on the Kusumarian, we were always there presenting new features and how Polkadot developers can, in an improved way, build on Polkadot. So what is the objective? An all-in-one tool for Polkadot development. Developers that want to build a chain, a smart contract, or a full-stack dApp, the POP CLI is the only tool that Polkadot developers need. So what is our strategy? First, we want to allow developers to bootstrap local networks with plain or live state with a single command. What does that mean? Integrating chopsticks and really making it seamless to start whatever network on your local machine to build on or test with one command. Now, we also want to add front ends to our templates. So chain templates and contract templates will be supported by front-end templates. This is in line also with the work that Nicholas is doing and all the front-end library teams that exist. We want to integrate the Omni node. This means that chain developers don't have to worry about the node, but just their business logic in the runtime. We want to add state lookups. This means that the developers will be able to query storage from chains and smart contracts, really completing everything that a developer needs to build on Polkadot. This really ties back into also what we then are very excited about, which is AI integration. I think everyone agrees that AI is going to change everything and we better utilize it as best as possible. In 1 year, we want to have a tool that integrates and uses AI. Otherwise, we think we won't be relevant. And on top of that, we want to make sure that what we have produced so far is always working, is of a high quality. We always are there to support the developers, being smart contracts or chains. What we have seen based on our surveys is that there is still a lack of educational resources, being it tutorials or video content, which is where we want to really up our game, as well as with our website and our alignment with the Polkadot Hub. So yes, that's the strategy. The ask. So for a total of 32 months, we are asking 580K. You can find all the details in the proposal.
How many? Sorry, can you go back? How many months was that?
32.
32 months. 4 engineers to deliver. Why does it say 26 at the bottom?
So 26 is for 4 engineers, and there's 6 months for the DevRel position, which is also 6 months. Yeah, that wasn't that clear. So future considerations, we have ideas, further improvements for the PDP integration. We want to audit the templates that we are maintaining because we get a lot of support from the people that use the OpenZeppin templates, but we are providing the support. So we would like to do that for our own audited templates. Alignment with Polkadot Cloud and the Polkadot Hub. Again, Polkadot Hub is coming, and we want to do everything that we can so that people that want to build with Rust can build awesome solutions on the Polkadot Hub. And with the Ink Alliance, we are close to being ready also for the whole Revive evolution, and they will be compatible with Solidity contracts. What is Rust contracts for? It's for the advanced logic that you want to put on a chain, and we want to provide the examples that cover those use cases. And last but not least, Jam. It's coming at the end of this year, and what we're providing with the POP CLI, I think it would be great to have that right from the start when Jam comes around. So who are we? We are Rogue. We're a bunch.
We're at time there, done.
Okay.
Yep, all good. Hey, just a clarification. People actually building Jam don't seem to think it's going to be actually in production as early as by the end of the year.
Yes, but so I think in the conference in Argentina, end of November, they're going to organize a hackathon there around Jam. And yeah, we want to make sure that the tooling is ready so that people can build and start building on Jam, as well as for the PBA version, I think at the end of December.
Okay, done. Just because we're at time here, Tommy is going to show us what it's like to ask a super quick question, because we are over time.
I yield. Thank you.
No! Damn, it always sucks when we don't leave time for questions, but time is time, and we've run out. Don, thank you very much for coming on. It looks pretty cool.
We'll come next week again.
You'll come back next week, okay? Because I'd like to talk more about this, but I think the mission is good, and this looks like a promising proposal. We'll have to see where the votes are next week, okay?
Yes, we'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Let's keep rolling here, because we have another new proposal this week. Oh my God! Look how pinned. There we go. Okay, wow. See, it's all about time this week. We have another new rev to discuss today, and we want to welcome Matteo from Project Davos onto the show here. We heard about this project in kind of a discussion phase. You guys have come in with a very modest $25,000 USDC ask. Really appreciate that initial offer to the DAO. That always helps. We don't have a lot of votes in yet, but we are at 19% support. Still waiting for the decision deposit. We're going to throw 8 minutes on the clock and hear what you have to say today. Matteo.
Hi, Jay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So, as I said, I am one of the builders of Project Davos. I'm here together with Enrico. And I'm going to present very quick Project Davos in 5 minutes. So at the end, there will be time for a few questions.
Nice.
So let's start. Let's start saying that we found out two main challenges of OpenGov. One is the well-known problem of the complexity that create a steep entry barrier, especially for new users, but even the most experienced one can feel overwhelmed sometimes. This leads to low engagement, and the result is that many users avoid governance participation altogether due to the complexity. The second one is that users struggle in find the right delegates. Why? Because there is lack of context, minimal context, is very difficult to understand which delegates align with the user values and principles. And the result of this is that users delegate less And when they do, they delegate without understanding the delegate position. So turns out that there is poor representation, and delegation often fails to reflect what token holders actually care about. We think we have the solution of that, and it's called Project Davos. Project Davos is an AI-powered assistant and that helps user to match with the right delegates. So we want to make delegation smarter, more transparent, and value aligned. And you can think about Project Davos as your personal co-pilot for OpenGov, matching you with the delegates who truly align with your principles. Let's see how this works. So the first thing is that the user should express within Davos their governance value, and to create a profile of the user principles and priorities. They do that through personalized prompts. In the meantime, Project Davos analyzes all the delegates' voting history and the delegates' governance approach, and is able to build a profile, a delegate profile, with the voting patterns and principle. Then is the time for the matchmaking. So the AI agent suggests the user which delegates are the most aligned with the user state values, and the agent do that with a clear reasoning for each match. Last but not least, to reduce the complexity of OpenGov and some of proposals that might be very complex and difficult to understand, Davos summarize and notify about active proposals and delegates actions in a very easy to understand and to read way. So the user is informed on governance activities. And this, you can see a sneak peek of what Project Davos will look like. You see a bunch of delegates, and here you see one of the delegate profile. So with the core values, the voting tendency, a treasury profile, and here at the bottom also the reasoning behind the match. In this case, is a good match between the specific user and the delegate. I don't have the time here to go through the technical details, but if you have specific questions, happy to answer at the end of the call or through DMs or on Discord. So here, we are here because we would like to build a Project Davos as a fully usable MVP. And we believe that we can do that in less than 6 weeks. Wow. To achieve so, we are requesting $25,000. And if you are interested in details of the milestones, the budget breakdown, or team details, all of this information are available in the referendum. We know that Project Davos cannot stop with the MVP, and we want to bring Project Davos further to make it more decentralized, more personalized, to be fully auditable for maximum transparency, and we want to improve with the data sources to make it the best copilot for the Polkadot users. At this stage, though, we want to focus on shipping a ready-to-use MVP for just $25,000. Mm-hmm. So I invite you to see this as a low-risk opportunity to test what can be a high-impact idea and project for OpenGov and for Polkadot ecosystem. We also believe that now is the right time to develop a project such as Project Davos. And we believe that we are the right team to deliver so with the minimum cost and in a short amount of time. And that's it. You have the link for the referenda, and you can always write us on the Davos page on Twitter, on X, or you can message me wherever you want on X or on Discord. Thank you, and if you have questions, happy to answer with the help of Enrico.
90 seconds remaining. Lorena, one question. If it was written out this long, go ahead.
How you select and how you select if delegated? You include all the delegated, and can you delegate, or anyone can delegate for tracks, or you have to delegate all the vote for a delegator?
No, at least at this stage, Project Davos doesn't really delegate tokens to the agent itself. We want to support the matchmaking between users and the delegate. So what we want to do is basically listing the delegates and running the ground with all the available information, public informations, to present a tool to basically give the user an easy choice between the multiple delegates that are on Polkadot or other parachains.
Cool. And we have 20 seconds left. Anybody else want to say anything else? I'll just say I agree. It seems like a kind of a low risk way to test this out. Yeah, I was a little wary at first of this whole AI Copilot thing for governance, but I'm starting to get it a little. And maybe 25K to see the MVP would be good. But we'll have to see what the voters think next week. Matteo, thank you very much for coming on. And Enrico, we didn't get to hear from you, but thanks for being here as well.
Thank you, Jay. And yeah, as I said, if there are more technical questions, like we want to use multiple kind of large language model to reduce hallucination. I mean, we are trying to build a very precise tool, and with a focus on the transparency. So yeah, thank you for having us.
All right, we'll talk more about it next week. Breaking news at the top of the show in the Tesla. Limo told us to look out for a big announcement happening around this CS competition, and lo and behold, on Nova Wallet, Ready, Aim, Predict, Nova Shots, just a beta, is live for the Blast TV Austin Major. Make your picks, grow your stack, and flex those Counter-Strike 2 instincts. Oh, and there may be some prizes up for grab that hold the winners of the Major's token. And then novashots.io is what they offer. Here we go over to the site. Looks like you have to do this on mobile, so we can't show it here. But novashots.io, if you have a Nova Wallet, maybe they have something flashing on the app right now, or maybe you have to go novashots.io in the app drawer. Tommy's going to do it for us and let us know about that in just a second. But that actually concludes... No, it doesn't, because we have one more thing one new proposal to talk about today. This one's just in discussion phase. A discussion posted on Subsquare by Mr. Allison Bob. Talent Bounty. Going to put 8 minutes on the clock to talk about this idea. Sir, take it away.
That's 8 minutes I'm losing to not check out the new Nova app. But okay, let's see. Right, so we are talking about the Talent Bounty. And the idea is to hire an ecosystem talent lead coordinator specialist. So 2 weeks ago, I've been here and I've been presenting this idea that we talked about. So to start it off, there is the Polkadot ecosystem is growing. Some roles are filled by Parity, by the Web3 Foundation, but they typically want to focus on their specialities, which is development and sort of assisting the ecosystem from the side, which means the ecosystem needs to develop these capabilities on its own of how does it do business development, how does it do success, and so on and so on. And over time, we are talking in the agents chat, you see it in the forum, there is ideas for programs to run, for different roles to fill. And quite often it's only ideas and they're not really being facilitated. And in many cases, it would very reasonably be conceivable that there is a budget, there is an actual need for something, and we're just missing the people to execute on those things. So the idea here is to hire an ecosystem lead. ecosystem talent lead. So that is a talent person, it's an HR person, it's someone with people skills, it's someone who understands Web3 and who is able to talk with all the different people in and teams and bounties in the ecosystem, especially in OpenGov. So one example, the marketing bounty is a fairly big bounty. It is hiring its own staff, and it has actual additional need to hire people. But we know the people from the marketing bounty, they are not HR people. They want to focus on marketing. And so they would naturally be struggling to find the right people. So this is where in a traditional organization, you have a specific department coming, right? Now, we have all of those bounties in Polkadot, and many of them have the need to find actual people. So the idea is if we can have develop the skill sets and the capabilities in the ecosystem to get better at hiring, to maybe develop decentralized systems of hiring or automated systems, or have a really cool sort of marketplace for gig economy, that would be a really good thing. So the idea is to have an ecosystem talent lead who understands Web3, who is able to build systems so that when we imagine that the ecosystem grows maybe 10x or 100x in the future, we still have the capability to ingest people. Right now, overall in Web3, there is a real talent crisis in the way that you can find certain talent, but Web3 overall, blockchain, crypto does not have the best reputation with many people, and so it's really hard to find the right people. So getting a person specifically placed to do that would be the way to go forward, in my opinion. And so the proposal here is, how do we create the vehicle to find the right person? How do we find a person willing to contract with Polkadot? And how does OpenGov keep control so that we actually make sure that the person delivers on the job? So the idea is to create a bounty or a similar structure. So you have a curator set of 3 or 5 curators, and these are the people that would work with the talent lead. They would make sure that there is a clear alignment on goals, and that the talent lead would be working to reach those goals. There would be a monthly payment. And so that person can have the safety that if they perform according to the social contract, they can get actually paid. And there is a guarantee for 1 year that as long as they do their job, they actually get the payment for the job. So that's the rough idea. We've been looking at data points in what are typical salaries for such a role. Currently, the proposal here settles at $90,000 per year with a performance bonus of $10,000. And then there is additional budget for travel to Decoded, and so on, like smaller things, benefits, $10,000, a budget of $30,000 for services. So, for example, paying ads on job platforms and so on. And yeah, that's it. And $10,000 for curator remuneration. So yeah, that's the idea. That person would be working with other talent partners in the ecosystem. So Web3 Foundation HR, Parity HR, Interplanetary Talent Services is a talent agency that is currently under decentralized futures contract. Potentially the ambassador program, if it grows out further in the future. So basically get the expertise in and make sure that we are not short on people, and we can actually service the ecosystem with the right people, so that when we have teams building in the ecosystem, we can create the service landscape that is necessary to keep them happy and engaged in Polkadot. So that's the idea. One thing I'm thinking about is like a bounty would only pay in DOT. Maybe we could just replace it with a pure proxy multisig, and we would directly pay because it's basically a USDC proposal of $150,000. So maybe just make it a pure proxy. It would be curators. I would be looking at as little curators as possible, just to reduce the complexity and not get too many people involved. We need a good alignment. And I think that's it. Let me check my notes. IPTS has offered to do basically help us for free for the hiring. They are under contract with the Web3 Foundation, so they would be basically paid off by the Web3 Foundation if they help us find an actual hire for that role.
Yeah,
that's it so far.
Cool, man. Thank you for bringing this up. I think a lot of things about this are great. I love, first of all, the idea of it being a multi-sig, so you can do stable coins. This is how we're going to do the RFP's initial launch on Polkadot 2. It just makes way more sense. I love the small curator team. Yeah, I've been calling curators supervisors lately to like differentiate from this idea of like fielding other people's ideas to actually like supervising outcomes. This is great. I'm just gonna adjust a little feedback I gave you yesterday. I want to massage it in a different way actually, but my feeling is that the upfront reward here of what is it, 90,000?
Yeah, but it's not upfront; it's monthly payment.
Sorry, but the commitment,
Yeah.
of my feeling is that it's a little high, and that in order to incentivize these systems that you spoke about, I think that commitment should be lowered a little bit with the expectation that the hiring talent lead, that the ecosystem talent lead, is able to claim rewards from the systems they generate. So it encourages them to get systems in place as soon as possible, set rewards and for outcomes of these systems, and then claim those themselves as bonuses with no ceiling, with no upper limit, instead of like it being up to the supervisors, like, you know, do you get a bonus or whatnot? And yeah, it just encourages the actual outcome a little bit more that you've defined here. That would be my feedback.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is for the role itself, I did not really see too much back pressure against the role itself. It's more like how do you structure it internally? What specific goals do you set?
Yep.
So I think discussing it in that direction is important.
Yeah. I think the
One-
outcomes you're after are good. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one argument that I saw is that in the ecosystem, sometimes professionalism is not valued enough. So I've been really going back and forth and what is the right price point? Some people say it's too little, some people say it's too much. So that is the second thing to figure out. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to comment on the issue. I will also post it in the forum, link it in the forum in the meta thread, in the mega thread, for everything HR related in ecosystem. And yeah, hoping to submit the proposal next week.
Cool. It's $38.50 reward per week per supervisor. But I would be interested in supervising this if you're interested, or if you need anybody. But I'd be interested to participate.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I will make a list of everyone who could be interesting.
Sorry, we're over time. Got too into it. That's cool. Tommy, thank you, man. I love it. I think it's cool.
Maybe preferential treatment, but I mean, it's you and Tommy. Like, and I know it's the end of the show, so I was certainly not going to tell either of you to shut the funk up.
I wish it was the end of the show, Funky, but it's not. We still have a lot of refs on the go to look at, including refs that we've already spoken about, starting with Snowbridge 2025-2026 milestone payouts. Oh, sorry. Wow, what happened there? Sorry to everybody on the call there. I went to the wrong scene and we were a little blank screen there for a minute, but we definitely talked about really cool things. Sorry, go ahead. Let's start the timer here and discuss. We're now discussing Snowbridge, the Snowbridge proposal. 20% right now. Yeah, go ahead, guys. Hey.
Oh, so yeah, thanks everyone for having us back on. So we've been gathering a bunch of feedback from various stakeholders in the wider community over the last few weeks since our proposal's been live. There's a few kind of main threads that we wanted to address here. We just posted a major update yesterday that addresses all of those. I'm not sure if people have had a chance to look at that or not, but I can quickly go over it now and talk about it, addressing the concerns. So the few concerns were, one was around ensuring that our roadmap and that our plans are directly more related to growth and can more clearly bring essentially TVL and like monetary value to the Polkadot community. So we just published a whole new roadmap that has a large focus on all of that. There's about 11 different initiatives that we have kind of put together that we think will directly result in growing the TVL and kind of strengthening the idea that Snowbridge is a path to bring more liquidity into Polkadot from the wider ecosystem. And so I'll maybe run through a few of those here. But in general, we're also looking for feedback on the roadmap from the wider community now, because we think it's more aligned with what's become a priority. So the one main area of focus is Snowbridge is really a tool for the liquidity, and it can for the treasury, and it can allow the treasury to do various things that include, one is treasury diversity. We did see the treasury diversity proposal come through around BTC in the last few weeks. And I know that one was contentious, but I think with Snowbridge, we've got access to much wider diversity. There's obviously BTC, which would have gone through Snowbridge anyway. There's gold-backed assets. There's other kinds of stable coins. And so we think putting a proposal to diversify across all of those things will be of value to the treasury. But more importantly, Snowbridge can allow the treasury to diversity into assets that do other things. So there's like yield generating assets, for example, USDS, USDE, staked ETH, such that the treasury is now generating yield on a lot of its assets that it wouldn't have access to otherwise. The second area is treasury market making. So the treasury will be able to say place its liquidity into liquidity pools in protocols like Uniswap, Balancer, Morpho, Sky, participate in growing liquidity against DOT on those exchanges, and so DOT itself gets more liquidity, but also the treasury now is market making itself. It can generate yield and have a new kind of income from those positions, and that feeds into the second kind of initiative of developing a baseline liquidity. So by diversifying the treasury, we're not just creating diversity for the treasury, but we're also creating a baseline of liquidity of DOT in a lot of these other protocols and a lot of other chains. And so that is essentially like, if you think about how kind of new tokens are launched, they often partner with market makers to create a market. And once the market is created, you get network effects that then allow for kind of more trading activity, more volatility, arbitrage opportunities, and just bring more people into the market. And so all of this kind of treasury diversity is essentially also market making the DOT market in new markets across the Ethereum ecosystem that we think will then result in increased volume and benefits to Polkadot-based exchanges too, like Hydration and Stellar Swap, and as we make more markets and create more access to DOT all over the place. And I think we'll see more activity come to life because the market will be made in more places. The third is kind of liquidity farming incentives. So I think this is something everyone's aware of and has talked about. The BitGo kind of liquidity incentive program that would be more focused on Polkadot itself. So Snowbridge assets on Hydration and Stellar, which we already have a bit of, but thinking of accelerating that. The next one is around USDC support. So there's been a strong kind of desire from the Polkadot community to get Circle to have native integration with USDC on Polkadot. And currently the only way that you can really get USDC in is through, I think it's Binance and Circle itself admins. But what we want to see is kind of stronger USDC adoption so that we can have much stronger native support and having more of these USDC related programs through Snowbridge is a stepping stone towards that, and we think that Snowbridge is going to be kind of a path to unlocking that. The next,
Aiden.
Yep.
Oh, I think actually we have some feedback or background noise from Funky there. I think we're better now. Aiden, just real quick, because I'm actually kind of confused at what you're saying now. It's just kind of a little bit much, and I think I might be missing something. So you've given this update on June 18th. Originally, the proposal is 254,000 DOT and then 4.06 million in stablecoins. Are you suggesting everything you're talking about right now? This is a new direction from the ref that's currently up. So the question is, are you doing a new ref? Are you completely changing the scope under this asset request? Can you please clear that up?
Yeah. So this is all a shift in scope under the same ref request.
So you're asking for the same amount of money, but you're making a totally new scope. Is that correct?
We're adding all of these items to the agenda.
But what are you taking away?
So the shift away is away from some of the engineering milestones that were in the kind of longer document. I think the feedback that we got was that they wanted to see our team's efforts and that the community wants to see our team's efforts work directly on these kind of initiatives, which still involve engineering work, but the engineering work is specifically targeted at bringing new teams and TVL into Polkadot as opposed to just on improving Snowbridge.
Okay, hold on. Before we go any further, I would just offer feedback right now. We should probably do a new ref.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can certainly do in Europe. Obviously, it's 2 weeks still to go until this one is done, and so it's not that much time after this has been posted.
Yeah, this one's done in 8 days.
8 days.
Yeah.
So that could be feasible. I think the point is getting to agreement on like what people want and what we agree on. Whether it's a new rep or this rep, it's almost irrelevant to us, right?
Yeah.
Just wanting to make sure everyone's aligned.
Yeah. You know, we often talk like complexity is kind of like the enemy of OpenGov. And I think there's been a lot of complexity in this proposal here. And to change the entire scope right now, I think that adds more complexity. It's kind of hard to track exactly how these incentives kind of map onto the new scope that you're saying here.
Two points there.
Sure.
The incentives are still the same, and they're based on the same things we agreed on 4 years ago.
Right.
I don't know if everyone actually read our last proposal, but essentially, when we put our first proposals together, we set incentive plans based on successfully launching Snowbridge and successfully achieving integrations across the Polkadot ecosystem. Our team basically did all of that and exceeded that. We have, I think, 2.5 times as many integrations. So we talked about 9 initially. We've got 24 now.
Kind of the tricky thing with the agreement that was made 4 years ago is that the people who came to consensus on that are not the people who are making consensus today, right? So it's kind of like we need to find like the thing that works going forward, because there is no such thing as like social consensus based on past
so
refs.
The challenge there is essentially what you're saying then is that like Polkadot's not capable of making long-term agreements.
That's right.
We've had like conversations.
No. The OpenGov game is not capable of making long-term agreements, but there are bodies in the ecosystem that are capable of making long-term agreements.
So maybe that's a kind of wider question to get feedback on in alignment. Is like, should OpenGov be capable of making long-term agreements, and how?
Well, it's technically not. It's technically not, unless you get all the funds up front.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like technically not capable of making.
If there's heavy churn in the voter base,
which there is, it's like highly liquid voter base, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
That's fair. And if you're suggesting we should kind of find other organizations to get longer term agreements in place, then
no, I'm suggesting you make a ref that's based on the appetite of voters today, instead of leaning on what was the appetite of voters 4 years ago.
Right, but then that implies all the funding needs to be kind of upfront if voters today could change in a year or two.
This is correct. Yeah, if you want to keep getting funded through OpenGov. I mean, the voters 4 years ago wasn't even OpenGov. That was a totally different system.
It was still the same kind of public voting system. So both of our last 2 refs were voted on by dot holders. The dot holders obviously
but they're not. Not the dot holders today. Yeah.
Just we're way past time.
Yeah, I know. It's just interesting. Sorry. You're right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just trying to like before we just like dive into massive complexity and you know waste any more time. There's kind of like some like facts of life we have to discuss here. Like, the facts of OpenGov we have to like address here. But we need some way to continue development and progress on Snowbridge here. But I feel like we kind of like are smashing against this 4-year-old agreement, which is like pretty much irrelevant.
I mean, if you're saying that like the 2 options that you're telling me, it sounds like either having an agreement where you ask for kind of things up front so that we're not susceptible to this like change in liquidity of governments, or to have an agreement with like other entities, whether it's Web3 Foundation or whatever, that's actually capable of kind of longer term agreements.
Or just being a more agile service provider, right? Like the KUS goes up for funding every year from OpenGov and every month from the marketing bounty. We're a service provider, right? And that's how we operate as a business under OpenGov. But I think but we're very agile with what services we're providing, right? But like massive infrastructure projects, like it's tricky without getting it all up front.
Yeah.
Through OpenGov, yeah.
Does anyone else have feedback questions? Or
Robert has something.
General.
Yeah, thanks. I'll try to keep it short. So it's true that this agreement is 4 years old, but it was reaffirmed and part of the roadmap of the last 2 years. And sure, there has been some flux in the voting body here, but I think a lot of voters here are just because they're not personally liable, they think it's free to switch around there. And I think for OpenGov to be like a reliable like institution for like long-term business planning, it's crucial that one sticks to like agreements, especially in cases like, of course, like if Snowfork went off to chill on an island for all this time, then of course not. But that's not the case here. And the other thing I wanted to add to that is I think it's also it's fine to like change like what the scope is and the roadmap is under the current ref, because ideally these things should be happening during the discussion phase, but unfortunately the reality of OpenGov is that when it's an open discussion, then there's no feedback there, and it's only when it's time for voting that one actually makes these changes here. So I think, given this nature here, it's valid to currently be making changes to that the running ref. Anyway, those are my 2 cents.
It's nice. I'm not sure I agree that OpenGov should strive to become a place where long-term projects actually can be funded. Probably there are other places that is more suitable for that. OpenGov is suitable for other things besides top-down. Unless it's like flexible service provision. Okay, this is just my thoughts. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, maybe adding at another perspective or angle.
Yes, please.
So it seems to me like you're working on Snowbridge, and I would say the work on Snowbridge is respected. But you realized that there's additional pressures or requirements or needs, or that there's just a much better integration with the whole ecosystem required, right? And so I see the thing you're presenting right now as an attempt to accommodate that need. But then from what I read in the Notion page, it feels like you're a little bit out of your, I don't know if it's the right English word, out of your waters or out of your depth in terms of it's a little bit of a different specialization you're trying to touch into, right? I think a good way forward would be to acknowledge that you realized that this is sort of the right direction to go into, but I think there's other people that are more specialized into actually achieving the things you're proposing here, right? So maybe this needs a little bit more conversation with other partners in the ecosystem to figure out how we can, like, what of this is realistic, what of this can be achieved, and maybe like have a few more conversations around that.
I mean, we certainly are having those conversations. I mean, we work closely with, for example, Velocity, and have spoken to them about all of these things. I do think our team is also like a large portion of those efforts do require engineering work to achieve. It's not like the shift is to stop doing engineering. I think most of the success that we see in bringing on partners and liquidity is by building stuff that attracts them. And so you are right that, obviously our team has not done heavy work in terms of like marketing business development in this way, but I think it's an area that we're still totally capable of and can shift towards. But I think that this is a kind of separate question. I think those are easier problems to solve. The harder problem is, well, like we've been discussing with Jay, is like how to form long-term agreements, and the best place to do that.
Or again, just give up the idea of long-term agreements and become an agile service provider. I mean, you're kind of recognizing the service that maybe OpenGov holders would want at the moment. So just, make a service agreement for those outcomes, maybe.
I mean, yeah, I think going forward, that could make sense. I think the challenge is we feel like we've been kind of shaded with the long-term agreement being changed.
Well, I think the reality of the changing voters has always been there. So it's not really the fault of the current voters that this was the business plan.
I mean, that's fair. I think the bigger question is like as a team, we want to work on long-term things. We want to work on impactful things. I think the kind of service
it's hard to get it from OpenGov.
It's great, but like that's not what motivates us, and that's also why we kind of wanted to go for building like a long-term public good, is because that's kind of the thing that motivates us as a team, is to kind of work on long-term impactful projects as opposed to just shipping something new every 6 months that doesn't have a string of connection. And for the kind of the structures in which, like in the world where we see kind of long-term successes, is typically where there are long-term incentives. So it feels to me like kind of that almost limits the OpenGov's ability to build the most awesome things and the most impactful things, because they tend to come from long-term incentives as opposed to like service-based delivery.
Yeah, but OpenGov doesn't have to be good at all things, actually. Robert?
Just quickly about the long-term planning kind of thing. I think there's a big difference between teams that are building something that will generate their own revenue in the long run and that gets some initial like bootstrapping funding from Treasury. Like that's a very different scenario. And then I agree, like they shouldn't expect this to be like a long-term thing. But specifically in Snowfrog's case, where they went against like building their own token or the like that kind of thing that really like gives you a lot of upside, where it was built like as a system parachain essentially. Like there it is really coupled to like the Treasury as like a source of funding, and I think there the need for like long-term planability for the team is something that the Treasury wants itself.
it's not possible with the way the treasury's set up. I'm sorry, but the voters are going to change. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we want. It's not how the game works. So it's foolish to build a business plan on it.
I mean, we do also have like examples of voters that individually
No,
change,
Tommy?
but as you said, that, like there's no accountability from the voters, even if it's the same voters, but the votes change. It's kind of outside of the typical kind of contractual system.
Yeah, exactly.
Where there is some kind of accountability.
That's right.
But that also like signals to me like it's still like a major red flag to suggest that like the Polkadot treasury is not capable of longer term agreements. To say it's impossible, like
it's not unless you have contracted supervisors doling out the funds, which is kind of another way that we're approaching this right now. But look, you can expect consensus to remain the same when the voters change. Like, no matter how much we want it, it's not how the game works.
Well, I think then, like, you can still have consensus around honoring past agreements, even if consensus on what those agreements are or not. And then,
you can't. You technically can't. No, you can't.
I don't mean technically. I mean in terms of like culturally,
morally,
and no, culturally, and in terms of like reputationally. What does the treasury want to have in terms of its culture and reputation?
I agree.
And,
yeah.
And that's, I think, where the conversation should be. Obviously, you're correct that all these technical things are impossible, but it's about what kind of culture, reputation, and kind of longer term standards that the treasury wants to incentivize and wants to be able to attract.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, does treasury want to uphold the decisions of past token holders, or does it want something else?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting discussion. Well, I hope you guys can come back with like a proposal that's in line with what the holders want today, so that we can continue doing this. Or, I mean, maybe there is another funding source in the ecosystem that can support kind of more long-term vision stuff. I think there's at least one, right?
I mean, I think yeah, we have others to speak to. Having said that, I do think like everyone's alignment in what they want to happen, and so the challenge is just like getting some of these details agreed upon, and whether that requires like a split in funding from different sources for kind of longer term stuff versus shorter term stuff is a question. But I think that's a bigger question for like the long term goal of Polkadot is to be decentralized, not to just rely on like centralized parties like Web3 Foundation or Parity or whoever to just fund stuff outside.
Web3 Foundation is not a centralized entity. They're just a large token holder. With the mandate, right? But they're not the largest. They're not the overwhelming administrator of the network at this point, right? They just happen to be a benevolent
I don't know the
token holder.
I don't know the balance of how much tokens different parts have, but I imagine that like the majority of funding in the whole Polkadot ecosystem, like long term, should be managed in a kind of decentralized token holder driven way. Maybe that's not correct, but yeah, I think that's maybe a longer discussion, not worth getting into now.
Well, Michael has to say something, so he has a unique perspective. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I know we're way over time on this, but like this is a really interesting one because I don't think that there's been many precedent around this.
Yeah.
Like I remember sitting in Decoded in Brussels last year, and Bjorn only mentioned two projects on stage. It was Snowbridge and Hyperbridge.
Right.
So does Snowbridge, is it more aligned to like what Hyperbridge is, where it's a private team building a private project, but it's very useful to the ecosystem that we're bullish on? Or is it more like what Jam is, and it's being instituted at not a corporate level, but like a higher up level? Because where did Jam get all of its funding from? Like it was rained on from on high. So do we want this from on high? If it is, it should get funding from a similar like cloud wherever the Jam funding came from.
Jam funding came from Web3 Foundation.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
So this really is a question of like, I don't think that Snowbridge should be here in the treasury at all. Either it's like a private project that's going to launch a token like Hyperbridge and get funding, or it should be rained dot on it by the same place where the dot for Jam came from. Because I heard about Snowbridge years ago that it was like this new
part of the white paper.
It was going to connect like Polkadot and Ethereum together, and it was going to be like amazing. If that's what this is, that should be paid for by wherever the Jam funding comes from.
Yeah, I think there was been like there was like a push like, okay, we want to decentralize, so we fund all funding out to the treasury, but in some cases it may have been premature. Luana.
Yeah, one thing only, because maybe I'm wrong, but we will
I doubt it.
use Snowbridge in the future with Polka if we have everything in Polka VM, or will not be necessary. So because it's a lot of money, and we should clarify this point. This bridge will be useful. We need this bridge, or we will not need in the future.
This bridge
What
is going to be
is
this bridge is going to be useful into the future for a long way
Yeah,
yet,
for
right,
sure.
guys? Yeah.
Polka VM
yes?
Polka VM actually enhances the bridge in the sense that like it makes it even easier for interactions between Ethereum and Polkadot, because Solidity developers will be able to do that as opposed to just Rust developers. But in general, like Snowbridge is intended to be long-term, talking like decades of keeping Polkadot connected to the Ethereum ecosystem.
Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, the only question here is this core protocol infra, or is it just a nice to have that's getting put on top? If it's core protocol infra, it's rough that that Snowbridge team has been sent to OpenGov to fund it.
Yeah. I'm not against funding it through OpenGov, but I just you would just need to find service agreements that make sense on timelines that make sense for OpenGov if we do it. But I'm definitely not against it. But yeah, we don't have to repeat ourselves. Who put their hand up there? Yeah, Kirill?
I just wanted to add that actually, I mean, Michael is a nice point about that Web3 Foundation should be funding the infra, but unfortunately, it's just not a fact. They literally are not. So what are they currently doing? Right? They have some kind of adoption program for new coming teams. Like they have some like bounties and stuff like that. But all the infrastructure now goes and should be funded via the treasury. This is their words actually.
Yeah. I think that's misguided, but I don't think it should be through the Web3 Foundation, but actually through Parity, which is funded by the Web3 Foundation. Parity gets its money from the Web3 Foundation, right? And I'm not saying that about this particular project. I'm not saying they should take on Snowbridge. I'm just saying as an example, like, yeah, core stuff. That's what Parity is supposed to be building.
So I mean, I think more generally, there's clearly a rift between what people think in terms of how funding should work across the Treasury, Web3 Foundation, Parity, and I don't know if there's other entities involved. And Snowbridge is getting caught in the crossfire of this, and that makes sense. And so my question to like everyone here is like, what is next steps? What's the kind of path to resolving this kind of more general dissociation within the Polkadot community? And like, obviously, we want that to be resolved because it's in our interest, but like, where should these further bigger conversations be happening? How can we help facilitate them and like, lead to a kind of stronger resolution between these kind of major players in the Polkadot space? Because it's really bad for the Polkadot ecosystem if like the core key pillars of the space are having these like kind of lack of alignment between each other.
Well, I think it was helpful today to kind of face the reality of the situation, and like facing the reality of the nature of OpenGov is something that a lot of people are needing to come to terms with lately. It's kind of been interesting. OpenGov is not a foundation, and it doesn't work like a foundation. But Kirill, what do you think?
Actually, I wanted to counter-argument what you said about that, all this like big stuff should be built by Parity, right? Like why Parity is not building Snowbridge, why they're not financing it. I would say it's like false in its ground, for the reason is that imagine that everything is built by the Parity, and at the end of the day, we have this one huge company which is like insanely centralized and like holds the development of all the major pillars of the infrastructure, and like tomorrow they get wasted by some tax or whatever reason, and then we have nothing. The big reason, for example, why Ethereum has a such large community is because we have a company pretty much for every rollup. There is a company for pretty much every alternative client. There is a company for like different other infrastructure project, and every company by default is doing a lot of infrastructure like a DevRel work, because they do want to have more users, so they go to conferences, hackathons, and then imagine it's only one company. It's Parity everywhere. Parity is talking about everything. That's just not gonna work,
Dude, I totally agree with you. And again, I'm not at all suggesting that I don't believe that Snowbridge should be funded by Parity. It's just interesting to see how the funding structure is different if it was under Parity than if it's under OpenGov. And the way this is presented, it's more like it should be funded by parity. But there is a way to present this to OpenGov for sure, I think. Let's see what Michael has to say, and then back to Tommy.
Yeah, this is a really great example about how, like, I see this all the time. I live half my life in a developing country and half my life in a Western country. And people in the Western country complain constantly about these little minor inconveniences they have when people in the developing country I live in are just like slogging it at 70 years old, lifting bricks on their head. And it's like, this is an example, and I use this is a really weird parallel, but this is an example where I use this in Polkadot, how we get so grossed out by the idea of like a governance corporate body that would help the protocol to progress. When I work at Republic Labs, we work with heaps of foundations outside of the Polkadot ecosystem, and they're all corporate tech companies, every single one of them.
Yeah.
This is the only one that even has a remnant of decentralization. So the fact that we have these problems is fantastic.
Nice.
And for parity to put their fingerprints on something like this is not a sin. Like, it's probably a necessity. And so we're so decentralized, we freak out about the fact that they would have to get involved in core infra. But if this is core infra, we need someone to actually like say that it's core infra. Like, look how Jam was snapped up and then it was funded, and it's now like, it's part of our religion. Like, is Snowbridge part of that, or is it a private project? That's the question.
Yeah. Okay, Michael really advocating for parity to take this over, which is compelling arguments as well. Let's hear what Tommy has to say. Not like we can force them to do it, by the way, but yeah. Go ahead, Tommy.
I don't think it's core infra. I think it's very valuable infrastructure. It's a really good tech. But there can very much be open competition between different bridge providers. Okay. That being said, Aiden, you can reach out and we can have a little bit of a conversation, and I will workshop with you on how to take another look at the proposal. I'm gonna post a link in the chat.
Great, thanks. Yeah, would be great to chat further with anyone that's interested, both about the issues with Snowbridge in terms of service, but also more generally around this like funding in the Polkadot ecosystem. I mean, from hearing people speak, one thing that comes to mind that, like, if we think about like a ideal outcome that the Polkadot system needs, is more entities like Parity, which are essentially like these kind of large-scale engineering organizations that can take on long-term projects and can work across like multiple aspects of the ecosystem, as opposed to just like organizations focused on like individual projects of their own. And like true decentralization essentially means getting more organizations like Parity across the ecosystem. And that's kind of what we see in the Ethereum ecosystem, where there are like a few different companies that do these kind of wide-ranging engineering and marketing and growth efforts.
Yeah, I wonder how such an organization would be structured, because Parity is funded by an initial allocation of DOT that the Web3 Foundation took for themselves, right? So I wonder if there's a future where Web3 Foundation funds other houses, or if they would do that, or otherwise would such an organization have like service agreements with OpenGov to fund large chunks with defined outcomes? Like, that's a very interesting idea. Yeah.
So like, obviously there's like kind of fundamental restrictions to a company having agreements with OpenGov, but is it the same the other way around? Can OpenGov have like an agreement with a company that still happens long term? So for example, let's say we wanted to bootstrap an organization like that and get it funded by OpenGov. Could OpenGov have some kind of contractual legal claim on that entity?
It could through the PCF,
even though it couldn't
actually.
happen the other way around.
Yeah, it could actually through the Polkadot Community Foundation in the Caymans, who own the Polkadot app right now. It's cool. Hey, why don't you guys talk with Tommy, and let's find a way to make a service agreement with OpenGov going forward that takes care of your team and takes care of the future that we want to see with Snowbridge. If you guys want to stay with OpenGov, yeah?
Yeah, Tommy, would be great to chat. I will reach out after the call.
Cool. Okay, nice. Well, 20% right now, and look, the updates, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe this can change the swing the vote, but we are 32.6 million on the nay side right now, with most of the DVs against, and you have 8 days, so we'll have to see if you can turn it around. But otherwise, obviously, we need to have you back with a new approach here. So yeah, thanks for coming on today, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, cool. All right, Kirill. Now this is a nice setup for you. 56% in favor of this 815.36 thousand USDC proposal. Also, very important core infrastructure, but a much lower price tag and a much more well, a scope that's maybe a little bit more digestible here. So 56% in favor right now, with 15 million on the nay side, but you have a strong 19.2 million on the I side right now. About halfway through the decision period. What are you thinking right now with this big spender? Where do we go from here?
I'm sorry, it's a question for me about what?
Gossamer.
I don't know where it will.
Gossamer, yeah, Gossamer,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where this will go, right? That's the reason why I'm here, to basically address some main question that I'm receiving actually during our events in Berlin, during the like just talking with the DV DAOs, and I wanna this time try to share my screen. I'm on a different browser. It's gonna work. So I wanna address a couple of the most common questions I'm getting. So generally people are like, you know, asking like, why you mention gem, you know, are you getting money for gem? No, we're not. The reason is that if you're not gonna mention the gem, you're gonna have questions why you're not mentioning gem. Gem is gonna come in 1 month and the work you're doing is not important. Generally, the gem mentioned here only for this purpose, which is said here, is that, yeah, we are building gem as well. This is completely parallel. We have two like separate people which are building current implementation of gem. We're also participating in Gem DAO and in Gem Implementers Guild and in calls and events. But this is funded by ChainSave. It's not a part of this grant. The second is about our progress report and the questions about that. There are no validators that run our software. So the big problem here that was in a recent couple years in general, I would say, is that on the opposite from the gem, and basically the reason why gem started with the gray paper is that there is no specification for Polkadot. So we always play in this catch-up game with the parity. Most of our documentation is pretty much inside Element with our direct communication with I'm not going to call the names, but with great parity engineers who are always answering our questions. And obviously, we're also looking to the code. We also get a little bit slowed down this year for the reason is that we've been doing Sassafras, which eventually renamed to Saffrold, and with Gem, it's actually decided it's not going to go to the Polkadot. Also, we've been we put a lot of our attention to the Polkadot, to the Gem and to the PVM. Initially, we even thought that PVM will come to the Polkadot, but now it's a pallet revive. So it's always a moving target. There is no clear roadmap sometimes. Even like things like elastic scaling and async baking, they've been talked through a lot of times, but you know, they usually just appear as a pull request in some time, and then you have to like catch them up. I also added a little bit about the budgeting because we've been receiving questions about the price. So I added like just a small distribution of the value. Unfortunately, I don't have more like detailed stuff. So we are asking for $815,000 roughly for 6 months of development. It's a 9-person team, which roughly is 135,000 burn rate per month, where 110,000 we spent for a salary. If we're gonna calculate on this is $150 per year on the protocol engineer salary, which is gonna check over the. We provided several resources, which actually we've been referred to, that this is like, I would say, lower than average protocol engineer salary. We also spent 25,000 a month on auxiliary costs. Those are to big extent, you know, the fees that we pay for example, again, I'm gonna call the name, but the platforms that we usually use to pay the salaries, the infrastructure to run a test nets, and so on and so forth. But the big important part, which actually then get questions again, is a travel to visit conferences and hackathons. Somebody asked me, is this should be covered by the treasury? So my answer is yes, for the reason is that I will bring several examples. We're pretty much going to every Polkadot conference, for example, to Web3 Summit, we're talking there. We have a booth at Web3 Summit, we're mentoring hackathons that Web0 is doing, And for example, Web3 Summit is not giving you the free tickets, at least not for the whole team. The best you can get is some discounts. Still, you also team need to fly to whatever country it is. The next big spend, like a point in terms of travels and hackathons, is like, for example, this year on Web3 Summit, our plan, and you will see this, is we're going to sponsor like hackathon in terms of usage of our client as a backend library, because this is, I talked last time, and I talked this when we were discussing Kagome, is that if you want to build a backend application for a blockchain, it can be like Block Explorer, it can be something which signs transaction on a backend to send transactions. You need to use like some language. Currently, this language you're going to use mostly Rust. Rust is not the most efficient to use for web applications, but you can use Gossamer as a library. Basically, it has all the primitives and types, all the cryptography primitives that you can use in order to, I don't know, send transaction, parse blocks, and do whatever you want. Just, for example, importing client, and you already have all the JSON RPC client you can use inside your backend application. This is where we go into hackathons as a mentors, but this year we also wanted to expand this even more, because there will be hackathon in Buenos Aires, there will be hackathon on Web3 Summit, so it's getting more lively right now from Web0 side. This is where we're also going to spend this money. So yeah, this is a small recap about budget as well. And I want to leave some questions if people want to ask. I want to leave some time for questions if people want to ask.
Good, Lorena from one of the DVs has a
Hello.
question. Go ahead, Lorena.
I would like to understand one point that I sorry if I made mistake. I don't listen you about the previous proposal that is not complete. Could you confirm that, because you have an open proposal that is not finished? So would you like to understand?
I'm
Yes,
sorry, what do you mean by?
the deliverables of the pending proposal.
I'm sorry, which one? You're referring to the previous year proposal, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
709.
I guess we've been submitting some reports on OG Tracker, but afterwards I've been submitting them on the GitHub. We just probably need to close this. As mentioned, let me share the screen one more time.
Because Bill mentioned too, and is not answering in subscribe.
Yes. So there were like a couple of epics that haven't been done. This is mentioned in the progress report for the previous grant. This is the availability recovery and authority discovery epics. So they've been designed, but they just haven't been implemented yet. And the reasons is I mentioned now, and the reasons actually mentioned here is that we just, try to, like, we had to spend our time on something else. As I mentioned, the sassafras, which was then not used in Polkadot, like PVM and Gem, actually, because it actually took a lot of our, attention. The big reason for that is Gem came out of the blue for everyone, moreover for us. We've been the first one who knows about it, and among the first who start developing it, because it's a new tech. You need to understand what's going on. It's definitely like, I guess, first 3 months after its announcement, we put a lot of our attention into it. This is unfortunately to the situation. Again, the reason for this, it's a protocol development. It's an always moving target. It's an always difficult to give an estimate. That's the reason we're not really even giving like estimates how many hours we're going to spend on every particular epic. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a design for every of it, create all the issues, and then try to fit as much as we can with the current team. According to our roadmap, yeah, we moved some things, and we expect by actually within the Q3, Q4, so next 6 months, we actually will close everything that is now mentioned in the statement of work.
All right, we're a little over time here right now, but thank you for the question, Lorena, and Kirill, thank you for coming on and giving us an update here. It's looking pretty good, considering the nature of the ref so far. So halfway through, 60% support right now. And you're going to be working with DVs going forward to try to flip a few, or how are you going to move forward here?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, this is the biggest reason. I mean, we have a backup plan. Is yeah, we're also talking with parties, maybe having more like direct agreements with them in terms of
Interesting.
then
Okay.
go with the agreement to the treasury. But it's again, it's you know, it's. I mean, ideally, Web3 Foundation. That's basically brings us to the previous discussion, right?
Back at it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ideally what Web3 Foundation or Polkadot, not like hub or not hub. Sorry, this Polkadot community should be doing this, right? Having the agreements on behalf of the treasury.
Well, this diversification of clients and expertise hopefully is covered by the Jam Prize in the future. Hopefully, DOT is included in the workings of Jam, and all your prizes go to the moon. That would be
yeah, really hope so.
yeah, a great initiation of other houses. Anyway, dude, thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more to discuss today. We have Rostislav to talk about Wagoy, Ref 1593. We are just over a third of the way through. Well, we have 16 days remaining, and we have 30% support right now for the Wagoy project. This is the owning vehicle data project. We're all gonna own it. 660,000 USDC, and we have 14 million on the nay side, 6 million on the I side. Rostislav, what's up, man?
Hey guys, it will actually be me, not Rostya. Rostya will just keep me in check.
Oh, he's next to you.
And
Rostya, oh, hey, buddy. Hey, okay. I saw you in the other room. I was like, who is this guy? But okay, got you now. All right, go ahead.
He's here to keep me in check, so everything I say, it's not...
We got 8 minutes. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, I will actually keep it brief because I actually had the opportunity to kind of bring in a bit more background in my previous talk, an hour or hour and a half ago, which is the foundation which we actually building to actually then properly do the BD after we have this proof of concept towards the regulation on the European side of things. But here I am here from my perspective of regulator to provide more input into why this proposal and what we focus to do with this proposal. To do a brief overview about the EU legislation which is coming in the next 2 years, I would like to highlight three most important regulations, which is the Data Act, which allows all of the European citizens to take control of their own data produced by any Internet of Things device on the market. So cars, fridges, pretty much anything, which is going live and into force in October this year. Then we have the Data Governance Act, which is doing the same thing with all of the data of the government itself, which it provides the opportunity for anyone to use all of the data of the government, which it actually collects through its different activities. And the last one, which is going to be followed up in, I think it's 2026, is the European Digital Wallet Framework, which is bringing the opportunity for all of the citizens to take control of their digital identity. So it will be necessary and mandatory for all of the member states to have their own interoperable digital wallet within all 28 member states. And what we are aiming with this proposal is to create a proof of concept application, both on the backend side and also with Oxblock Deep Labs, and also create through Pluto framework what we are doing, and we will actually highlight more what we are building, not only for cars and Internet of Things stuff, but properties, to provide the abstraction of the back-end blockchain layer so that the app developers can just focus on actually building the business logic of the application and actually provide them with the tools to use all of the different pallets within Polkadot that we have in a more concise way, which is we already started working with Excavate, and as you could see, there is the already functioning mobile application of Excavate, which is focusing on the property market. Then we want to do similar thing when it comes to the data of cars, and take these proof of concepts and go to the regulators through the regulatory sandboxes. Here we have the backend side. We are ready for the scale which you are actually asking for, and we can Polkadot can actually provide a compliant way out of the box of how to be compliant with all of these data governance, data regulation that is coming from the EU, which is on the blockchain layer. So that's GDPR, that's the Data Governance Act, that's the Data Act. And so pretty much the goal of this proposal is to bring together all these different teams from within the ecosystem that has the expertise to have a ready and functioning proof of concept for the Internet of Things for car data to be ready in October, so that we can actually talk with the regulators and say, okay, here it is. We have the tools on how to build it, and we can actually bring in the corporations such as Skoda, such as Audi and Volkswagen, to provide them with the tools, so that it's not only that Polkadot needs to build these applications for them, but we can teach them and show them, you guys have your own mobile application developers, so just use them. We have already integrated the kill pallet. We have the unique pallet integrated. With Vagoy, we want to integrate the machine pallet of Heat. And probably Rostya can even say more pallets, which we have already integrated.
Exactly. Also, what you are seeing here, the screenshot that I'm sharing, is the real X Market application. It's a real application that is built with Pluto framework, and I'm showcasing it here just to show you what this Pluto framework is really supposed to be used for, and it would be used for Vagoya as well.
And again, there have been some questions, for example, from Blokaya about the nature of the proposal and its benefit for Polkadot itself. We would argue that's the nature of the open source nature, both of Pluto Wallet and also the backend that is going to be done by Ox Block Deep Labs. So because we are not going anywhere, and we want to work with other projects who are willing to work with us. For example, it would fit great into the picture, Energy Web and Origin Trail, Peak also, and all of the projects, and build the abstraction to create mobile applications that connect all of these different verticals within the ecosystem, and provide the tools for these corporations to actually build on top of Polkadot without the need to understand the blockchain below it. And feel free to ask questions.
Cool. Any comments or questions? We have 90 seconds remaining. You know, feedback I've given privately, and I'll make it publicly right now, is that I wish there was more discussions about the agreements you have to actually use the tool you're trying to build. Because you mentioned like some OEMs there, like you mentioned Audi and stuff. So I don't know if you have agreements with them or not. But without without leading with that, basically this proposal makes it seem like the risk is on the treasury to build something that may or may not get used. But if you spoke about actually you have use cases coming down the line, then that actually makes it a lot easier to vote aye for me.
Yeah. Blokaya, go on.
Yes, two things. Have you evaluate, because as I know, this is everything in smart contract, how this can work in Polkadot, because we don't have smart contract yet. So will be how you can do it in Polkadot, because we don't have that. Second, have you evaluated to do in like MVP, a smaller an
right.
MVP, and then do it.
We're at time here, so can we? Yeah, let's let them answer.
Yeah, the MVP is actually ready. It was built with Flutter. It was mentioned, I think, in the previous proposal that got rejected. So I think you can check it there if you want to.
Yeah, and just one last and brief one. We are going on actually next week also with another team which is working with us closely with us, who is actually working for the past 3 years with the Web3 section of Skoda, building these mobile applications. And so we are in touch with these projects, and also the additional funding to then bring it to market. We actually want to go not after Polkadot, but after actually the funds that are coming from the European Union, the European Commission, the nation states, and the corporations. For that, to get to that point where we can, and Mario was saying that last week, for that to get there, we need the proof of concept, and then we can show this is what we have, and let's build it.
Yeah, I think that's the story we need to tell here if we want to see this get passed. And I'm feeling like we do. We'll have to see what voters think though later. 16 days remaining. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming on.
We should bring it in next week, I think. With
all right.
The last.
Okay. There we go. That's all the presentations for today. God, the chat has been full of people very upset today. And I was like, why is this happening? Why are people complaining in the chat? Because this doesn't usually happen. And then I realized, yeah, the token, the price of DOT is crashing. So maybe that, I guess, has something to do with it. But definitely encourage people to pay attention to the show and find little openings where they can actually exercise their agency to increase the value of the network. And this brings us to the discussion, the other hot discussion in the chat today, which has been inflation. And here's a few things I've been saying on the timeline to get the juices flowing. I'm really pushing for this idea of fixed supply of the DOT token. Now, this opens up a whole crazy can of worms. So let's just take stock of where we actually are today. The network this whole time, or up to the beginning of the year, basically had 10% inflation year over year on the current supply. So that's represented by this orange line right here. Here's the flat 10% inflation. What we did at the beginning of the year is we set a new inflation starting at 8% of a fixed amount, which in practice means that inflation over the current supply is actually going down every single day. Right now, inflation against the current supply is about 7.56%, down from 10%. So that's pretty good. However, my personal feeling is that token holder behavior is very mimetic. It's not very logical. And small changes in inflation rate are probably never, ever, ever going to be registered on the price chart. We have seen certain tokens do very well with fixed supply, such as Bitcoin, XRP, Cardano. I don't know what value Cardano has besides it has a fixed supply and a lot of boomer stakers. Litecoin. These are examples of networks with fixed token supplies. And so Gavin Wood actually suggested this, was the one who brought this idea of a fixed token supply last year in our in the series that we hosted on the gray paper. He suggested this with a kind of like halving of inflation rate. And so that's the idea that I'm kind of starting with, and I've been not agitating with, but juicing with these past couple days. This wish for change by Judas feeling was put up 7 months ago, actually, after the initial inflation reduction refs went through. This never got a decision deposit, and only got less than 8 million, or about 8 million votes. It also had some misunderstandings of how inflation works and whatnot here, so you can check it out. It's Ref 1216. Cool that somebody put up this ref, of course, but this wasn't exactly a test of the idea, I would say. But okay, here are the questions I put up, by the way, and then we'll see if anybody has a comment on it here. So I mentioned that fixed supply immediately adds utility. I mean, this is true because the DOT token actually right now you're incentivized to either stake it to keep up with inflation or sell it. And we see a lot of people selling it who are getting staking rewards. But if you add a fixed issuance, then immediately the token has the added utility of potentially a store of value, because technically, if the issuance of DOT were to slow down and eventually come to a halt, but the issuance of USD continues to go up, then that's what we see happening with Bitcoin and other places. All right, I asked people, what do you think we should fix the DOT supply at with 2-year halvings was the proposition I put forward here. 3.14 billion, 4.2 billion, 6.9 billion, or keep inflating. At this point, there's still an hour left, but we have, what is that, 87%-ish of people wanting to fix the issuance of DOT, at least on the timeline, at least the audience of this show. So that's 87% of people in favor of this idea. That's interesting. And then I asked if we did cap it at 3.14 billion, how many people would hold more DOT? Right now, this is only 4 hours old, but 75% of people would hold more DOT, they claim, if the issuance was capped. So interesting opening data on this concept here. Oh shit, I wasn't sharing the screen. Damn. Okay, here's the first one. People suggesting which number to cap the amount of DOT at. And then here's the one asking people if they would hold more DOT. So 21% of people are saying, yeah, I'd hold more DOT under 10K. 53% of people are claiming they would hold over 10,000 more DOT in this situation. So interesting opening data. We're getting late in the show here, so wow, we are getting late in the show here. Does anybody have any comments on the panel here, at least today? See if we can get any further here. Tom, you had an interesting idea in DMs.
Yeah, I'm gonna preface it. I think it's mostly a meme. I don't think, like, for Bitcoin it has a strong value proposition because people are so violent about it. But I think Polkadot is very mutable, and there is some researchers that are saying that the inflation model of Bitcoin is a ticking time bomb in terms of the security budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even unclear for Bitcoin what they will do in the future. I think there will be a great schism of some sort. I think what is on the economic side, I think if we combine reasonable things with good memes, it is a good compromise. Okay, but to your idea, I think if you start the discussion about capping the supply, I would even go into discussion of saying, can you get the supply back to 1 billion DOT?
Yeah, this was your idea in the DMs. You're like, we should cap it, and then we should use deflationary measures to get it back to 1 billion. That was funny. Yeah,
because it makes you think about like really aggressive measures to bring it down. Yeah, I don't know, questionable. But I think having the discussion is good because it always highlights very good arguments, and it shows us where the community is standing. So let's see.
Yeah, nice. Let me comment on a few things you said there. So, yeah, I think, like I've said it a few times, but token holding behavior is not logical. It is mimetic. And this is why I think like little reductions in inflation, we haven't seen any blips on the chart, and nor will we, because the violent swings in the price of DOT way outweigh these micro percentage changes. But that's being said, fixed inflation is actually also logical, of course, because you basically have this fixed supply asset against an ever increasing supply asset. So it's also logical. What's the other thing you said there? What's the second thing you said there? I want to leave a comment on. Mimetic. I don't know.
The violence of Bitcoin holders.
The violence of Bitcoin holders. Oh yeah, the reckoning. Oh yeah. There is a reckoning about security coming down the line eventually. Obviously, the thing is you move to a fee-based model, but what is that, 80 or 90 years away potentially, or something like this. But I mean, the one thing to observe with Bitcoin is that as they undergo these halvings, and I'm not sold on the halving idea. It can also be a smooth, but every 4 years the price of Bitcoin has more than doubled. So even if rewards get cut in half, I mean, you still have a reward that makes it worthwhile to contribute technically to the network, right? And I think the same thing would happen with Polkadot.
Well, it's sort of, it also created this dependency of the price has to double now every 2 years, every 4 years.
Correct.
Or
correct.
Or the hash rate will just get removed from the system, right? So if the price doesn't keep up and it cannot double every 4 years, because like you would soon reach more money than there is available on the planet.
Yes.
So
I think that's a sound economic game.
It's
an
assumption you put up that holds true until it no longer holds true.
Like every asset of value.
Again?
Because the alternative is that we just print and then tax all holders anyway. So it's just a different approach, but both rely on memes.
Right. Liveness, yeah, you have to pay for liveness. And
Yeah.
if you don't have any other means, you pay by taxing.
Yeah. All right. Let's go down the line.
We could still pay much less for liveness.
Well, I mean, I agree for sure. I think reducing inflation is a good idea no matter what, but I don't think it has the mimetic power of capping supply. Okay, let's go with Rob.
Yeah, thanks. So I want to comment on the Bitcoin comparisons there. So I generally think reducing inflation is a good idea. And the long-term security problem that Bitcoin has wouldn't apply in Polkadot as it works today, because there the long-term problem is that if the block rewards like go to zero, then like you just like the entire security is based on like how much miners make from the transactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's highly variable. So like the security model breaks that down. So good luck to everyone who's still alive then to see like how Bitcoin unfolds. But that broadly doesn't apply. So like in Polkadot, it's not even like the rewards of the validators that secure it. Like that's actually irrelevant. It's just like how much secure. So you could in principle like say like they make no money and it's just like the stake they secure, but then of course nobody would be running validators. So I think for Polkadot that would be fine to make such a change. And I think the economic benefit of reducing inflation is a good thing to consider. It would also reduce like treasury income, of course, but if the token is more valuable, like if that is the direction it does take, then that's of course fine. One more thing I do want to add to that though is that I wouldn't expect the same behavior as in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's 21 million cap is so fiercely guarded by like the entire social construct around it, whereas Polkadot can change on a whim to go back from like being reducing inflation to like it could go to like hyper Zimbabwe inflation if voters decide to like push an upgrade like that. So I don't think it has the same power as with Bitcoin, but it would nonetheless be a good move.
Yeah, I agree there, and I have mentioned that it is technically a soft commitment until holders vote otherwise. But part of this move would be advocating to get it enshrined in Jam, which is also what Gav suggested. Putting it beyond the reach of governance is what he suggested. Still possible, but I think you need a fork. All right, Michael.
I think Ethereum kind of solved this, didn't they? Like if you're going to introduce like an increase of liquidity into the ecosystem, you've got to have a drain. And so I think adding more burn measures would probably be the way forward. So inflation is an incentive structure that brings people into the ecosystem. They're going to see that they can earn yield on their DOT. That's a sucker's game, but it's an essential game. It's a marketing game. I think rather than decreasing or eliminating inflation would be just to increase the amount of burn mechanism.
Yeah, as Jonas did actually with this fee thing, but it's such a small mechanism. Yeah, but I hear you. More deflation mechanisms are great and also compatible with fixed supply, by the way. But you're kind of suggesting it as an alternative, but that's legit.
Well, you have one way in and one way out. So like it could be all core time gets burnt, all transaction gets burnt, all like we can add in exactly a myriad of other options about how to reduce the supply. It could be aggressive, it could be subtle, but it's another way to also keep inflation and keep the revenue source coming into where it needs to, but also still be reducing or at least parodying the supply.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, doing it as a straight alternative doesn't really satisfy these three nice qualities that I laid out here, which is investor stability, a transparency of the runway of the treasury, and also this urgency for us to get our shit in gear and make sure we become revenue positive ASAP, instead of like, there's always inflation, which is definitely a big sense of the vibes. I think there's always inflation, right? And we can just keep inflating. I think at least I think there's complacency because of that belief. But yeah, I absolutely hear you. Kirill.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say that inflation is not inherently bad.
Yes,
If you're
agreed.
gonna see that, inflation is basically what makes customers spend their money. We don't want, like, if you're gonna check the Bitcoin transactions, people are now not sending Bitcoins. They don't sell them because, I mean, they think, yeah, tomorrow it's gonna grow. The only people who wins from all this deflational model are actually people who just hold basically tokens and just don't vote, don't sell, don't participate in any DeFi and stuff like that. We also don't want this, right? Polkadot is more about computational power. You can launch your application, so you want people to actually be willing to spend their dots on some like on something. So we definitely maybe need to lower the inflation, but going into this direction and saying that inflation is inherently bad, it should be deflational or something like that, I would say it's not the right approach.
You know, it's interesting because you made a statement there saying that we don't want kind of that holder utility and that holder mentality, but I kind of think we do, and we're actually suffering for not having it. In fact, security is at risk because we don't have a holder mentality. We don't have an asset that encourages a holder mentality. The treasury is at risk because of it. Like Cardano, for instance, has that utility built in, and they can leverage it to achieve goals. But we actually have a seller's mentality in Polkadot right now.
I try to say a little bit different idea,
Sure.
So when your currency is always growing in its price, you will probably just put it under the pillow and we'll wait until it's growing the price, like with Bitcoin.
Yes.
What instead we should be investing into is basically better DeFi mechanism where your APY can be higher than deflation. Then then users will be forced to, take their liquidity and just use it within the network to get this additional API to overcome the inflation. That's the reason why the real assets in the world, they do have inflations. Because in the end of the day, deflation is also commits to making rich richer, because when you have like a bigger supply of the tokens, you're just correspondingly getting more profit from deflation than the person who has less.
Yeah, it's actually a clash of monetary theories that we're discussing right now, and you're advocating for a more modern monetary theory of inflating the supply. Yeah,
is nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't feel that way myself, but there's strong arguments on both sides for sure. Robert, what do you think?
I think it's a good point that Kirill is raising, because that is one of my disappointments in Bitcoin. Like 15 years ago, I was excited because it was a cheap way to make transporter permissionless payments. Nobody's really like using it for payments anymore, mostly. What I do want to say, though, what is a bit different about Polkadot is that the utility isn't just from spending it. There are all these other things you can do with Polkadot that
yes, indeed,
do that, which is where Bitcoin is limited. So I do think I think you can have both in this case, like it being used for utility, but nonetheless being a something where you put that you hold, like, because it's going to grow in value.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Bitcoin, unfortunately, it doesn't have the ability to become more powerful and keep transactions cheap while increasing the cost of the value of the asset, right? It's basically stuck. It's in becoming more crowded. Yeah, Tommy.
Yesterday, I've been looking at the numbers of how much reduction in inflation, how it would relate to the current volume. So we have about $300 million of volume of DOT every year.
Used to be $1 billion. Last year was $1 billion.
Yeah, I think like 3-4 years ago. Like last year it was 300 million.
Okay.
But like if you would reduce it by 2%, for example, that would be a third of the volume, right? So
you said daily volume is 300 million. You said daily volume is 300 million or yearly?
Yearly.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yearly, right? So if you would reduce the inflation by another 2%, for example, that would be equal to 1/3 of the yearly volume, right? So it's and I think, like, if you compare it, like, this is the staking rate over time, and so here we are in 2021, and then over time we always roughly had it at 50%. I think ideally you want to have as lot of DOT staked as possible because it contributes to a high security of the network. But I think as long as we can push the inflation down and still hold that number of like roughly 50% of the dot staked, we remove a lot of the sell pressure. So and what you also do is the lower you have the inflation, it creates some very practical limit on how much dot is being created, because you just have less dot that is being emitted into circulation. For example, if we had a formula where we slowly reduce the emission of dot, it would even create a very like practical limit realistically over some time.
It already is reducing the emission of dot right now.
Yeah, but only relative, not in absolute terms. In absolute terms, it's always 120 million dots per year, right? And so that means relatively, it's going down.
Maybe like a 2-year halving. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think the meme is powerful. Fixed supply meme is powerful. That's my point. But it's really interesting, actually, discussion. I think we're going to continue to have an interesting discussion here. My plan, actually, because there has been such strong, at least on the timeline, support for the idea, like, over 75% in both questions so far. I think my idea will be to create like a $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 research prize to actually create and present present proposals to the community, to OpenGov. So we'd actually have like 3 options presented that people can actually vote on, and but just the research itself is like very low risk to actually just do the research and decide on some timelines, decide on some inflation curves, and decide on a cap, and then do that research and then actually put it up for vote. But right now, all we can do is talk, and it's not so helpful. But somebody actually needs to do the research and put it together. So that's what I would suggest. No. I would supervise this. I can't. This is why I can't do it. Yeah, I am part of the emerging supervisor class. We need more supervisors.
I was meaning Tommy, because Tommy's not busy at all.
You know what? I mean, who is skeptical of this, I think, is Jonas from the Web3 Foundation. So I would actually like to ask him if he would be interested in supervising, because like it's pure research. We're not doing anything here. We're just researching. So that'd be interesting, and maybe somebody else who might be interested. Yeah. But yeah, you are busy, right, Michael?
Slightly, yep.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. Okay. Hey, thanks for that discussion. But we do have some refs that are on the go right now to continue they're not here today, but we've discussed them on the show. The Merkle Science one for 100,000 dot. This is 8 days remaining and 32%. I don't know if we'll see any more movement here, but 1 DV could swing it back to just over 50. 2 DVs could put it over the finish line. We'll have to see what happens there with Merkle Science. Marketing Bounty, huge relief to a lot of people, is going extremely well. A lot of people, the goose is funded by the Marketing Bounty, so it's a huge relief to me. 82.4% in favor of this one for 200,000 dot per month given to the marketing initiative, and they are expanding the curator set, the supervisor set, and so that'll be interesting to see how it goes. They're adding Mark and Sergi from Magenta Labs. Mark from Sitel, Sergi from Magenta Labs. So interested to see how this develops. Would be nice to get Bounty palette version 2.0 in the mix, so we don't have to do this dot stuff anymore. But that's besides the point. Moobert and Pudgy Penguins, we had them on the show last week, and they've improved the situation a little bit. 27% now in favor of their $81,000 USDC proposal for Pudgy Penguin partnered events. That's halfway through the decision period. The Treasury proposal for Jamton has also, after the DAO votes came in today, because Koos DAO is on the I side, DAO is on the I side. This is the Jamton project. I don't know what people don't like about this project, but I mean, they've come twice and got rejected. They've built anyway, and maybe now's the time to give them a little boost. I don't know. They're looking for just under 100,000 USDT to add order book to their decks. To finish funding some cross-chain activity, and one more thing, and one more really cool thing. Oh, enhanced EVM compatibility. Yeah, those are the main focuses of this $100,000, should we choose to support them. Avatar accounts. Remember we had those competing avatar accounts in Epico? Here's the situation on that. Less than 2% are in favor of the avatar account solution for 211,000 USDC, but we're under the 50% line for Epico as well. 47.8% only in favor of this, and the decision period ends in about 5 hours. So 5 hours to turn this over the line. Otherwise, I hope we see one of them coming back with a revised proposal, because I think this is what we want. I think. I don't know. I think it would be pretty good. Anyway, and confirming this week is Encode Club's redo of previously approved funds. They previously asked for 128.33 thousand USDC, but failed to claim it. So here are the token holders honoring the decisions of the token holders gone by, giving them another opportunity to claim this USDC. That's very nice to see. 80% in favor of this. Who was on the nay side here? Chaos DAO on the nay side. What a bunch of dicks. All right. That's, I guess, the show today, because we are at 2.5 hours. Wow, that was an awesome show, though. I'm so happy to be home and with you all on my multi-screen AAG setup. It's very nice. This Space Monkey Sunday, somebody you might be familiar with but not know enough about. We have Limo at last as a guest on Space Monkeys, where we talk about the beginning of Polkadot, the foundation of Chaos DAO. Tommy, your name is dropped, of course, in that story. Governance 1, OpenGov, the whole shebang. We talk about fudding. We talk about getting things done. We talk about being a good Polkadot citizen. It's a good episode. Make sure you check that out on Sunday, but not before Friday News Pump on Friday. And then, Goose is going to be in New York City for Permissionless, doing another Web 0 event space. Don't know how many more of these I can do, but they are so awesome, and they are doing such great work for the ecosystem. So, always happy to be there. Guys, thanks for being here. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.